Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the Mill Valley School District School Board Candidate Forum. We welcome our viewers joining us by live stream on YouTube. I'm Heather Matthews, the president of the Mill Valley PTA Council this year, and I would like to thank the League of Women Voters of Marin County for organizing and moderating this evening's event. The mission of the Mill Valley Council of PTAs is to facilitate communication among PTA units in our district, to unify and strengthen its associations, to exchange ideas and experiences, to serve as a channel for communication with the Mill Valley School District, and to advocate collectively for the benefit of the education, health, and welfare of our children. As a nonpartisan entity, we are delighted to partner with the League of Women Voters to co-host this forum to ensure that voters have every opportunity to make an informed decision on these important leadership roles in our district. This year, there are 5 candidates who have entered this race to fill the 3 open seats. And now, to introduce the candidates and begin this evening's main event, I am pleased to hand the reins over to this evening's moderator, Becky Bingay.
Becky, you're muted.
Just like me to be muted when I'm supposed to be talking. Hi, my name is Becky Bingay, and I am your moderator this evening. Thank you so much for joining us for this candidate forum featuring candidates for Mill Valley School District Board of Trustees. Thank you to Mill Valley Council of PTAs for inviting the League to moderate. We're really honored to be here. The League is a trusted, nonpartisan membership organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We promote voter education and advocate for issues. We never endorse or oppose candidates or political parties. Moderating candidate forums is an important part of our work. With me are League members Elaine Biagini, our timekeeper, and Ann Wakely, who is providing Zoom support, along with technical support team at the Community Media Center of Marin, CMCM. Just as a reminder, all of the candidates have agreed to participate under the ground rules set for this forum. This evening's forum is being live streamed on the League YouTube channel and simulcast on Marin TV Channel 30, facilitated through our partnership with CMCM. It is being recorded and it will be available through our website at marinlwv.org. It will also be rebroadcast on Marin TV Channel 30. Days and times will be posted on our League website. Candidates will be allowed specific times for their opening and closing remarks and to respond to questions. There are 5 candidates running for the Board of Trustees. All are with us this evening. Natalie Katz, Carol Morganstern, Sharon Nakatani, George Rosenfield, and Yunhee Yoo. The candidates are invited to make a 2-minute opening statement. After that, they will each have 1 minute to answer each question. To be fair, I will rotate the order. For opening statements, we will begin with Yunhee Yoo. Yunhee, please unmute yourself and begin.
Hi, I'm Yunhee. Most of you know me as Jack's mom at Tam Valley. I'm a volunteer mom who does yard duty and organizes book fairs and a room parent. What you don't know is that before I became a full-time parent, I spent 25 years in finance, namely making investments in complex situations like leverage buyouts, private debt, distressed and stressed credit, and structured products. And I was asked to run for this position by other parents and teachers exactly on the last day of the school as I was scooping up ice cream for a class party. I spent all summer looking to see how I could add value. And I'm present at school a lot, so I understand a lot of the issues that are going on. And as you hear, you will see that all the candidates have identified the same issues. But what I think I'm differentiated is that I've learned to be unbiased, critical thinker. And as you know, having made investments, I sat on investment committees, and I'm very consensus-driven decision maker. I've never made a single investment without the full support of my investment committee, of which I was a member. And I think this is what we need to unify our community. You know, the pandemic has made it worse. There's a rhetoric of she's for the teacher, he's for the, the board, he's for the students, we're all for students. But we really need to unite because it really matters. And it does take a village to raise our children. And finally, I just would like to say, I am also endorsed by Mill Valley Teachers Association, the Marin Democratic Party, as well as the Marin Women's Political Action Committee. And thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Yunhee. Next is Carol. Carol, please unmute and begin.
Well, thank you, first of all, for hosting us here today and for all of you who are taking the time to listen to what we all have to say and are taking your decision on your vote for the Mill Valley School Board very seriously. I have been a parent in our district. I have a third grade student at Tam Valley who also attended TK at Strawberry. And I have to say, I think our schools are fantastic. I came to Mill Valley because I wanted access to the top quality public schools that we have here. And really my goal in being a part of this board is to continue the work that we are doing to continue to have these great schools. As I'm sure everybody on this Zoom or YouTube Live realizes that there's been some challenges that we've faced in the last few years. COVID threw an absolute curveball at all educators, not just in Mill Valley, in California, in the United States, but across the world. And so as we look at how we are going to address the issues that have come up and make sure that our children are as well taken care of as possible, I think about what I want our schools to be. And the opportunity to have 3 seats available on a 5-person board with nobody choosing to come back for a longer term, which is reasonable. A number of those people have served for a very long time. But it gives a chance for a fresh perspective. And I think that my perspective, not just as a parent, but as somebody who is a professional negotiator, comes in handy. I started my career as a lawyer, but now I am a professional negotiator as a recruiter. And I think that that skill of bringing out the best possible outcome for everybody is one that I think will be useful within our schools. My goal is to put our children first, make sure that we are listening to our parents and our teachers, but most importantly to our students, and make decisions that are going to really benefit them and hopefully address learning loss and social issues that I think are really important. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol. Next, we'll hear from Natalie. So Natalie, please unmute.
Thank you so much. I have been a parent and member of this community, or a parent in this community since 2019. My family and I moved here right before the pandemic, and got embedded very quickly, and were able to really take advantage of the wonderful schools here. And by our children being split across Old Mill and Enda McGuire when we first moved, developed a much larger community when we first came in the first place, and have really benefited from that. I feel very honored right now to be a candidate up for consideration in this election, and was encouraged to run by a number of parents in the community. And I also have the support of the Mill Valley Teachers Association, so stakeholders across the board. And hopefully that's proof that have, in a short period of time, been able to get my arms around what's happening in the district, and also just develop very strong relationships that hopefully will lend well to my hopefully future role on the board. Next year, I will be the only candidate who will have children across both the elementary and middle schools in the district. So that would translate into my having a direct view into what's happening on a day-to-day basis in the schools, and a natural organic connection point with teachers and with parents in the community to understand what's happening and to be able to help make changes and manage policies accordingly. My 2 priorities, similar to what everybody else here cares about, is driving a rigorous education, both in academic and social emotional learning, and also greater transparency, unity, and leading with empathy. I have an HR professional background that I'd love to use to help bridge the gap between where we've ended up with stakeholders and hopefully get rid of some of the divisiveness so that we can put our students first. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalie. And next, we're going to hear from George.
Great. Thanks so much for having us, and excited to be here with all of you guys. I feel like we just did this last week with another group of people. But my name's George Rosenfield. I am the proud dad of two amazing twins in 3rd grade at Strawberry Point Elementary School. We were fortunate to move to Marin, as many people here in the district have, when we had our twins, and have enjoyed the community here at Strawberry immensely. It's made, already lifetime friends that I don't know that we would have had the opportunity to meet without, having kids. That said, I made a decision probably midsummer that it was really important for me as a parent and as a person to get involved. And I say that because I've spent probably the last 30 years of my life dedicated to folks that really have been, marginalized. The LGBTQ plus community, which I'm a part of, has fought viciously for marriage equality, just workplace rights, and it's been something that's just in my blood. And to come out of COVID and see a lot of what's happened in our schools with learning loss and sort of the tension that exists today between so many of the stakeholders, I just felt my duty and a calling to show up and be present and help be part of a solution to what we're seeing as the problems that face our school district. And I'm just glad to be here. So thanks.
Thank you, George. And finally, we will hear from Sharon.
Hi, my name is Sharon Nakatani. I've been a Mill Valley resident for 18 years in the Homestead and El Monte neighborhoods. I've always been an active and engaged parent to my 2 teenage daughters, starting in co-op preschool, serving on a board there for 3 years, 2 as president, serving 4 years at Edna McGuire Elementary PTA executive board, driving on countless field trips, and even chaperoning a week-long overnight for 5th graders. At the middle school, where my youngest is now in 8th grade, I served lunch weekly from Panther Cafe for 4 years. So I am definitely a boots on the ground parent. I'm present, I'm engaged, and I have, I've been attending board meetings for years. There's Mill Valley School District right now is faced with a lot of rebuilding. We need to rebuild some fractured relationships between existing key stakeholder groups. And like Carol said, with 3 seats coming up, we can really approach this with a clean slate mind and have, establish trust together, establish mutual respect, open lines of communication and transparency, and hold each other accountable to that, all while keeping in mind, like always ending with the question, is this best for students? We need to rebuild. Learning loss from the pandemic is very real. We saw the stats on that. We need to rebuild our programs, and we're going to build new policies to make sure that we have equitable support for all of our students and or intervention to make sure all of our students can be successful. Lastly, rebuilding Mill Valley Middle School. There was a $194 million bond, roughly $150 million of it is going towards rebuilding middle school. I am a LEED accredited professional registered architect whose professional experience lies in publicly funded education buildings. So in addition to seeing 2 children move completely through an entire Mill Valley School District education from K through 8, I have the unique knowledge and professional approach to helping see that we build a school for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. And now we're going to move into the questions, and we were fortunate to receive an abundance of questions for you all. We won't have time for all of them, unfortunately, but we do have some good ones, and we look forward to hearing your answers to them. We're going to begin with Carol. And the first question is, what do you view as the role and key responsibilities of a school board trustee?
Wow, what a great question. I think the role of the board is to govern. I mean, it is not necessarily a working board where we are going to get to go out there and go into the classroom and implement what we want. It's really a job of supporting all of the other pieces that are working together. It's supporting the superintendent, it is supporting the principals and the large scale amount of consultants that we have that are pushing forward really interesting movement on curriculum and other pieces that involve what's going on in the classroom. Making sure that the DEI initiatives are going through, making sure that there are initiatives that are going to address the social and emotional wellness that is so necessary in our schools, making sure programs that do things like the wellness centers that are going into the middle school or the Tiger Lounge that's going into Mill Valley is supported. And then ultimately making sure that everybody is doing the best they can to row together. I feel like right now everybody is trying so hard, but we're all a little bit out of sync. And so getting everybody together, I think, is a primary goal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carol. So next is Natalie. Natalie, what do you view as the role and key responsibilities of a school board trustee?
School board is there to oversee the administration of the district. It's not there to administer and to act on those things. It's there to ensure that the school district is well run and help to set policies and set what outcomes should look like, with the administration and the other stakeholders being the ones who drive those. The board is there to ensure that the district maintains a focus on learning and achievement for all students, so that there's equity in education for all of our kids, and determines policies that drive the operations of the district.
Thank you, Natalie. George, next, you're up, and what do you view as the role and key responsibilities of a school board trustees?
Yeah, great question. And I think I'd start out by saying, with a shout out to Dr. Berman. I mean, we have an amazing superintendent here. And primarily the job of the board is to support her in her initiatives that she's trying to push forward. And, part of what we're facing today is just so much tension between the different stakeholders. And it's keeping decisions from happening in the best interest of our kids. And so when you look at, what is the board responsible for? It's responsible for the positive outcomes for our children. It's for, managing and oversight of the superintendent, both hiring and firing that person. But more so, it's making sure that we are standing in what's best for the kids and not letting other outside influences, distract us from us. So that pretty much answers it.
Okay, thank you, George. Okay, Sharon, you're next.
So, California School Board Association sort of defines our roles, as does the Mill Valley Governance Handbook. But, again, we oversee the budget. We support the superintendent, and we oversee the superintendent too. We advocate for all students in our community, and we want to provide, equitable support and or intervention when needed. We oversee the curriculum. We make sure that our DEI efforts are, as we say in our curriculum, like they're integrated into the curriculum and they're delivered. We also defer to the experts. We are not necessarily all experts in all the various fields. So when that happens, we would, seek outside, input when necessary or when appropriate. And I think, yeah. So I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. And Yunhee?
All right, I agree with Sharon. The board sets the agenda for the district, working with the superintendent. We set the budget, but most importantly, we make important decisions regarding the curriculum, and we're not experts. So we're not driving the process, but we as collectively are making important decisions for the well-being and the best possible outcome for our children. At the same time, we are publicly elected members of a board, and as such, we do have fiduciary duty to the members of our community that we have to weigh along with our children. Obviously, our children come first, and we should make sure that we care about all the children, all the diverse needs of our very, very diverse children. And I think to do that, we have to make proactive and not reactive, and we have to be strategic and be accountable for the goals and strategies that we set, and make sure that our superintendent does the same. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to move on to question 2. Question 2 is, what do you feel are the most important issues that the Board of Trustees will be working on over the next several years, and what skills, experience, and knowledge do you bring to this work? And we're going to start with Natalie.
I feel like first and foremost, the most important issue that we're facing right now is a combination of learning loss as well as getting greater consistency across our schools and with our curriculum for our students. Right now, we have both significant drops in performance over the course of the last few years due to learning loss, kids being on Zoom, kids being out of school, and a lot of focus in the last year being on supporting them from a social emotional perspective to get everybody back to a baseline. So right now we need to drive a rigorous curriculum in teaching so that we ensure that we have equitable results. And that includes also looking at almost backing into where kids need to be in high school in order to be successful, ensuring that our middle school curriculum builds up to that, and then taking our 5 elementary schools and ensuring that there is consistency across those to build into the middle school for success.
Okay, thank you. George, you're up next.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I really agree a lot with Natalie. And what I would emphasize is, I think if anything as a community, what we've learned, especially having kids home during COVID and becoming parents and teachers all in one, is to be successful in helping kids achieve positive outcomes. Parents need to work really hand in hand with the teachers to get those positive results. And I hope now, even with people going back, that we keep that foremost and that we get more parent involvement at the schools and with our kids and in education. Because we do have significant learning loss that needs to be overcome. We've got differences between schools, even within Mill Valley, and we need to set an agenda to, bring equality to that and some rigor to that, and help set our kids up for success. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up is Sharon.
So I kind of touched on these in my opening statement, but rebuilding relationships is key, because without those, ultimately, if we don't have groups working cohesively together, it's going to affect our students. And really, that's the bottom line, our students all the time. So rebuilding learning loss, again, is another issue that we have the stats, and we need to now have some programs and some policies in place to address that, to make sure all students get an equitable education. And, rebuilding the middle school is really where, is one where I'm uniquely qualified to help with that. As a registered architect, experience in publicly funded large education buildings like this. We need to address climate change. We need to address energy consumption. We need to address safety. We need to address sea level rise. We need to address whether or not the new school could be, a refuge on a cooling center on these hot days we're facing. The world is rapidly changing around us, and I'm uniquely qualified to address that as an architect. Thank you.
Thank you. And Carol.
Okay. I think that there are 2 really important things, and I think they're very interconnected. So I think addressing learning loss is an incredibly important issue to address. If you look at our test scores, all of our kids across the schools are doing less well than they did in previous years. That means that when they're getting to middle school, they're not necessarily having the skills to address the questions that are in front of them. It means that we're sending our kids off to high school who may not have everything that they needed, right? So addressing learning loss in a very thoughtful way is incredibly important, but also very interconnected with the other issue of social emotional learning, because I think that kids who are feeling successful and who are feeling supported, feel like they're good at what they're doing, feel better about themselves. And so we also want to think about safety, right? If you think about, my guess is you're going to ask about school safety, but having wellness and having counselors and having support for our kids is such an interconnected part of all of this. And so we want to really look at our children holistically.
Thank you. Okay, on to question 3.
Oh, I
The
wasn't
Mill Valley-
asked. I wasn't asked.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't asked. Sorry.
Sorry. Yes, you guys, please interrupt me if I skip over you. Go ahead. Yunhee.
I know. Oh, so I agree with everybody. I think we all brought important points. I care about equity, educational equity. I looked at the scores of our students. The biggest 20% of our students within the district are high needs students. They are English learners, socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and students with disability. The most learning loss was among the disability students with disability. It was 4.1% lower test results compared to all other classes. I think we really need to address the specific needs of this student, which make up actually around 10% of our student base. Also, I also firmly believe in differentiated education for everybody else. That means we need to have teachers who are trained in the pedagogy of each grade and be able to provide differentiated education. I also think when we provide targeted learning help, we should move beyond math for lower grades. I mean, move beyond the language arts and also be able to provide math as well, because those are foundational skills. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now moving on to question 3. The Mill Valley School District Board has in recent years been criticized as lacking adherence to respectful and civil discourse. How will your participation on the board help change that? And we will start with George. And please unmute yourself.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's one of the biggest problems sort of facing the board. And, I think, and it's been brought up, but building trust is basic tenets for any successful organization, let alone a board. And that needs to be brought back and built back really by the people that sit on the board, by the community, by all the various stakeholders that sit at the table. Because without that, we can't engage in thoughtful discussion, and through that discussion come to consensus and make decisions. So, I think I bring a very rational approach to how I approach both my life and my business, and I plan to bring that same rational, thought process and behavior to the board, and hopefully be part of that.
Thank you. And next up is Sharon.
Thank you. Hi, yes. Well, I have been a board president before. I have served on other boards, and I really feel that I am a good listener, and I listen to every, opinions, and then I weigh the opinions. I'm an independent thinker. And, again, like we said earlier, with 3 brand new board members, we can start with a pretty clean slate, and we can start with fresh attitudes and new energy. And I think we can bring this forward to really improve the civil discourse that we've had previously. I believe in, when I hear proposals, I ask thoughtful questions. And we want supportive data to inform us of why some proposals were made. And so we can discuss as a board respectfully with one another the right decision to make on behalf of the students of Mill Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Yunhee, you're next.
This is where I think I could add a lot of value. I've been on the board of corporations, both with really underperforming companies and with performing companies. And here's the thing, I think we need to have diversity of opinion. That's very important because that makes our board better. I also think we need unbiased perspective that is willing to listen to people who even don't want to, who don't support you or may not agree with you. All of September, I made sure I met with the existing board members, even though I knew they didn't support me, because I think their input is valuable. I made an attempt to meet all the other board members because I need to build the candidates because I need to build relationship. I met with the teachers and parents to understand different perspective. And I think that's the first step to unifying our board, having good relationship, diverse opinions, being willing, willingness to be flexible and unbiased. And to me, I think that was the most important skills that I can add to our board to build and unify. And because our children need this. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol, you're up next.
Well, I think that my background as a lawyer for 7 years, and then now as a recruiter, which is really a professional negotiator, gives me a lot of experience working with people and working through different situations, listening and responding, and really maintaining good relationships with everybody throughout the process. I think that anybody who knows me would say that I am the type of person who de-escalates very quickly any situation that I'm in, because I feel like that is when everybody is going to get their best opportunity to speak and to be heard and for the situation to move forward as positively as possible. I think that that is evidenced in the fact that I have been endorsed by 4 of the board members. There are 3 that are outgoing as well as 1 who is staying on. One of the board members, I understand, is going to abstain and not be giving any endorsements, but I do feel like in those meetings, the endorsement shows the willingness and desire to work with me. And I think that's really positive and will help me if and when I'm elected to work well with them.
Thank you. And Natalie.
Yeah. So I agree with George on his comments about building trust. And I think that what we need to remind ourselves of is to always start with almost the end goal that we want here, and what are the outcomes that we want for our students, and and try to move away from our board being what's kind of become a microcosm of what we've seen in our larger political climate, where it's our side versus their side, and not pausing to listen to each other, see each other as well-rounded human beings who all have the best of intentions at heart and need to work together. So I have an HR background, and I'm used to balancing various stakeholders with very different opinions in very different and challenging situations. And I think that you need to be a collaborator, have civil disagreement with one another, but at the end of the day, the board needs to be unified, and remember that in how they present to the community, that it should be one unified board who presents the right solutions, hopefully, to the district.
Thank you. All right, question 4. Mill Valley has a major facilities project that will take place at a significant cost to taxpayers. How will each of you provide value to this project, and what unique skill set and perspective do you bring to that process? And we're going to start with Sharon.
Thank you. Well, as a lead legacy accredited professional and registered architect for almost 20 years, I've worked on these exact type of projects that Mill Valley Middle School and the other 5 elementary school tier 1 construction projects that will go on. But I've worked on projects of this scale, large publicly funded education buildings. I understand the engineering drawings. I understand the details of an entire building set. And I've been on the other side of the table. And I feel that being on this side of the table, if elected, I can advocate for the district, I can advocate for the community and the students to really articulate the needs that we want to ensure that we get the best building using our bond dollars wisely, and really not building just for the immediate future, but building for future generations of students. But there's a lot of issues. This is a very, very challenging site, and it's going to take a lot of experience to really tackle that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Yunhee.
Yes, I've advised my portfolio companies to manage project like this. I know a lot about budgeting for projects, forecasting costs, building contingencies. And I know we have advisory committees that's going to help with the board to make the right decision. But I think advisory committees don't make the decision, the board makes the decision. You need to be asking the right questions, you know, hold the contractors, engineers, architects accountable. And also to, you know, we have fiduciary responsibility to be fiscally responsible and disciplined for the tax holders approve this bond. So, and personally, as a mom at Tam Valley, I want the middle school to be within the budget of $150 million. So all our aging facilities at elementary schools can also be improved or rebuilt. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Carol.
You know, I think the primary goal of the school board is to make sure that we are doing the best things for our children. The building project and all the money that we got from Measure G is not just going to be the middle school, it's going to be facility improvements across all of the elementary schools. I think that it is important to oversee that the group of people who are going to be on the financial oversight committee are keeping on task the best we can, keep aware of budgetary constraints and issues that will come up throughout the construction, but on the nitty gritty of the building of it, there are going to be architects and other people. My goal and my primary concern is to make sure that the education isn't interrupted of the children who are attending the middle school during the facility improvements. Obviously, the building is incredibly important, but I do feel that there are going to be experts that are not necessarily a part of the school board to be making sure that we are making all of the, you know, kind of detailed decisions on those issues.
Thank you. And Natalie?
So I agree with Carol, and that the most important point here that the board is going to be focused on is first and foremost ensuring that there is minimal education disruption for our students. There's going to be some degree of disruption regardless, because it will be a large project, and we are having these improvement projects happening across our schools to ensure healthy, safe sites that are good for all of our kids. But I think that we will help to oversee that project. We're going to rely on the experts to do that, just in the same way that we rely on the experts, our teachers, to help drive the education in our schools, and the board acts more in an oversight role. And, and I think we want to focus on helping that execute successfully, but ensuring that our focus is on what's happening inside of the school as much as what's going to be happening outside of the schools.
Thank you. And George?
Yeah, great question. And it sort of covers a couple of different topics, but completely agree with Natalie in that I think our focus as a board is not so much what goes into building the school, but what's going on inside the walls of the school, and ensuring that the kids are taken care of, and that they don't suffer any disruption or minimal disruption. And I too agree, and even Sharon, pointed out that there are many experts that will be brought in, smarter than all of us, to give guidance and suggestion. And the thing that I bring to the board is, I have a very vast 30-year finance background, a CPA out of college, and now in mortgage banking for many years. And I think I bring a skill set of being able to be the watchdog or the watch eye of, exactly making sure people are on track.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to question 5. What do you plan to do to actively promote unity among all stakeholders and build community across the district? And we'll start this with Yunhee.
I think I mentioned this, I think we need to talk to each other to get different perspective, and we need to be flexible. My 30 years, when I started out in investing, I lost $40 million. You know why? Because I assumed, and as my boss then told me, assume makes, excuse my language, an ASS out of you and me. That's my philosophy. And I think you really need to understand different viewpoints, try to get as much information on others' perspective, respect it, involve, be focused on fact-based arguments that is based on research and understanding of our needs, and build relationships. I mean, I've been meeting with Natalie, I've been meeting with Sharon, I had fun with George. I am going to have coffee with Carol, and I think that's a start. I mean, we are all in it together for our children, and I think it's that understanding should be the foundation of all the board interactions. And so I'm very glad there are 5 involved parents in running for this election.
Thank you. Okay, Carol.
Yunhee, I'm looking forward to that coffee.
I know.
Agree
This is
that
what
all of
order
us,
it, yeah.
going through all of this together is already creating bridges and relationships that I think will be very positive and bring a very positive spin to what's going to go forward in the board behavior and moving forward. And I do think that listening is an incredibly important part of understanding where people are coming from, not just listening to what they want to do, but understanding why they want to do that. And I think that there's an aspect of communication that I think can help here. I think one of the frustrations that I have heard from parents is they don't feel that they're hearing enough from what is going on in the school board, and they don't feel they get enough opportunity to give their input. And I think making everybody feel heard and making everybody understand, I think, what goes into the decision process, because we can't all get the outcome that we want. That is not how boards work. We have to work within the confines of this situation and the facts that we have to deal with. But understanding what goes into those decisions and some clarity there, I think will help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Natalie?
I completely agree with Carol in that I think that understanding why people want what they want and what they're advocating for, and ultimately collaboration and compromise are the most critical. It's again, what I said before about realizing that we have a unified goal for our students and caring about them and their outcomes and wanting to ensure that we put them first. So starting with that always, but connecting with people. And one thing that I've really valued throughout this process, of as much as the political campaign has been challenging in many ways, it's enabled us to connect not just with each other and value each other for stepping up and running, but also connecting with the broader community, both within the schools and the stakeholders, the administration, the teachers, the parents. And so continuing to listen and make sure that, to Carol's point, that people are aware of why I think decisions are made and ensure that people feel heard.
Thank you. George?
I agree with all. And Carol, to one point, the why becomes so important. We had a really big issue show up at the end of school last year in terms of extending the school day by 20 minutes. And, it would have been really helpful for parents, for teachers, for everyone to understand the why behind it, and effective communication, could have probably solved that. Hindsight being 2020. I think it's our job to be those communicators, to open those lines up between the various stakeholders, for bringing people together, for getting more parent involvement, right? So that people are heard. And then once a decision is made, I think we need, and this is the unifying part, is people need to get behind those decisions and support it. And to what Carol said, not every decision is going to go the way any one of us or one particular group wants, but once the decision's made, it's our job and it's our responsibility to see that through for its best outcome.
Thank you. And Sharon?
Thank you. Well, Mill Valley, and I'm not going to remember all of them, but we asked our students to, there's 12 aspects that we asked our students: collaboration, critical thinking, being curious. We want them to be lifelong learners, empathetic. We want them to listen. And we want them to be good communicators. So as a board, as a board member, if we adopt those same 12 precepts that we ask our students to have, and we show that as a board member, then, and we are accessible and we're good listeners, then I think we can, actively promote unity amongst all these various factions and any kind of damaged relationships that we've had over the few years. Being a good listener, I think, is one of the most important parts. Just, you listen and then communicate, when appropriate too. And a lot of the frustration, I think, over the years is why? Why were these decisions made? And we don't often hear the answer. And I think we just need to be transparent and communicate and communicate and communicate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next question. And some of you have touched on this a little bit already, but the next question is, pandemic learning loss is an urgent issue. What steps would you take to help our students make up for this loss? And we're going to start this off with Carol.
Well, I think that we need differentiated learning, or some variation of that we can get going now. And for those people who are not paying attention to every one of the buzzwords, that means learning that is targeted to 3 different main groups of students: students who are meeting the curriculum right where it is, students who may have a little bit more advanced needs, and students who may have a little bit of need for curriculum that is going to match them slightly at a different point, a little bit lower in the class area. But so that we're making sure that kids are really getting education that they can pay attention to and that they are learning from. I mean, my goal would be to have curriculum that will advance every student from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, 1 full grade level, even if they aren't starting the class exactly where they are. Because if you think about what's going on, if somebody is using the same lesson plan that they had used 5 years ago, the students aren't where they were 5 years ago. And so we want to make sure that we are adapting and adjusting and giving the kids what they need, not just for their curriculum, but again, it links back to social emotional health and making sure that kids feel good about themselves.
Thank you. Natalie?
So I think that a lot of things that are going to address this are actually actively happening or in the works. And I think that with all of that, whatever it is that we continue to do, that we address it with a sense of urgency, knowing that kids are likely to catch up in many ways, but to Carol's point, it does impact their self-confidence. And if they fall behind now, then if they don't get caught up to where they need to be, that's just going to become a cumulative effect over the years. So continuing to push forward on things like TLL, where kids are pulled out and work with their teachers in direct instruction and reading so that they support them where they are at their level, meeting the kids where they're at. And then with the new math framework that we're still waiting on for California, I know the teachers are doing a great job with the math committee and rolling out hopefully what's going to be a more consistent approach across the district so that we can see those consistent results across each grade level, helping to support students' improvement.
Okay, George.
Agree as well. I think you're going to find that this group tends to be a little bit of consensus, but yeah, learning loss is real, and we've seen that in the test scores, and that needs to be addressed. And I think that there's currently initiatives that are happening right now that show how collaboration, and the math committee is one of them, where they're structuring education and they're bringing more rigor to what hopefully will rolled out. I also agree with Carol, and that has to happen, as rapidly as possible, and hopefully we will see some results from that. But to continue with targeted learning, not just in reading, but as Yunhee said, in math and in all other areas, so that we can see all of our kids moving forward and improving both academically and socially and emotionally.
Great. Sharon?
Well, like others have said, we do have differentiated learning actively in the classrooms. And we do have also which is I think tier 1 intervention. And we have tier 2 intervention for English language, and I believe they're bringing math back. So that's really important. But we also need to let our teachers communicate with each other and give them the opportunity and the time they need to communicate with each other. They're the ones teaching our children. They're the ones that know, I'm not going to be able to get to this lesson this year. These kids aren't ready still. Or I think I can tackle this year. I think, you know, we're gaining this knowledge back. And we need to give them the opportunity to collaborate on that and then give feedback, you know, at the district level so we can work together. Also, the other part of that is, you know, students need to feel like they belong, because when they feel like they belong, they feel safe, they're valued, and, you know, they're respected too, so they can be more successful when they feel that way. Oh, sorry. Frequent testing right now is happening. Sorry, thank you.
Right. Okay, and Yunhee. You're muted.
I'm very excited about this new Listening to Learn math test that we will be instituting. And here's the thing, I don't think many teachers know about it at schools other than Edna. And so I'm very excited because one-on-one, very, very powerful tool for assessing students. But the learning loss is real. You know, I know the school has a lot of plans to address the learning loss over long term, but when I look at the scores, we need to do it now and we need to do it soon. I think with the student per student spending of $21,000, that went up from $17,000, we need to provide math help in targeted learning by hiring more TOSAs. You know, there's so much our teachers can do so that we could do math and reading as soon as possible. And I'm really concerned about how our students with disability and English learners are doing in the tests, because at TAM, English learners are not getting regular help. And I wonder through pandemic, a lot of the students with disability didn't get the IEPs and help that they need. And I think a lot of, you know, it's expensive to take IEPs. So I think we need help. We need to help the students, identify them early and give them support early. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, next question. What does a safe school look like in the wake of all the school shootings that have occurred across the country? And we're going to start this question with Natalie.
So I think there's the aspect of physical safety, where it's ensuring that the locks work, that there's shades that you can pull down, that there are appropriate exit routes for students and teachers should something you know, incredibly unfortunately happen. I think it's also, and more importantly on a day-to-day basis, safe is inclusive and about the overall well-being and wellness of our students, and ensuring that they feel accepted as a diverse community, that everybody is recognized and accepted, that we are addressing things like bullying head on, when there are issues with students and their interactions, or there is a potential threat, that we are doing proactive threat assessments to ensure that that we are doing intervention to prevent those things from happening in the first place, and you know, hopefully never see that happen again. But it is across all aspects of safety and well-being.
Thank you. George.
Yeah, safety is obviously a big overarching umbrella and one of great importance. And I think when you think of it, you know, people have asked, you know, how do you feel about putting up, you know, fences, and how do you feel about, you know, having armed people on campus? And I think if you look at even places where there have been problems and things have happened, that doesn't really help. And it's really having intervention early. It's understanding the student population. It's having counselors that are there to help support the needs of kids as they're moving through the school district. It's having DEI programs that expose our children at a young age to, you know, many different cultures and beliefs and family types and stuff like that, so that they do feel safe, that they feel comfortable, that they love going to school, and that it isn't a burden.
Thank you. Sharon.
Thank you. Yes, we have been asked this question a lot recently, and there are two aspects of this. There is the physical safety of a school. And for that, we look to our experts to inform us, in law enforcement, to tell us, are we doing everything we can on these school sites, given the way they're built, the way the fencing is now, and everything about it, the ingress and egress to it? Are we doing as much as we can to make sure our school is physically safe? I know at the middle school, we have a school resource officer. The police station is literally across the little bridge and the bay. So it's nice to have that really strong connection. And speaking with the Wellness Center, I had the pleasure of touring the Tam High Wellness Center this morning and speaking with the director. And and I know our middle school wellness center is getting close to being open. And I think there's so much there that we can implement and really assist our students to, again, when they feel safe, when they feel like they belong, it can be tied to their performance, and it's tied, there's a sense of pride that you have when you feel like you belong to a school and that you're safe there. Thank you.
Yunhee?
Yes, I agree with everybody else, but here's the important thing about physical safety. We need better buildings. For that, we need money to improve our school facilities, because as far as I see, our elementary school facilities are very old. But more importantly, for physical safety, I wonder about protocols. I don't think our district has protocols in case something horrible happens. I've done research into this. Sausalito School District has 98 different protocols for different situations. Like, what happens? Where do you go if there's a shooting during the PE class? And I think it's important, because when something bad happens, you need practice to know what to do. And most second important thing about also mental health and social emotional learning, I want to see more counselors at the school. Our elementary school is now sharing counselors. I know there's a counselor shortage, but I think it's urgent. And to date, I have not seen our board address it in any of the meetings. And finally, okay, I'll stop here. Thanks.
Thank you. Cheryl?
I agree with pretty much everybody on here. I mean, we could talk about safety endlessly. I want to address Yunhee's position about losing counselors. I know that the district has recently lost counselors. We lost them very close to the start of school, and I know they're actively searching to make sure that we get the counselors in place, which is a huge part of safety, right? If you think about safety in two buckets, the first bucket being facilities and making sure that we have plans, and we've worked with law enforcement to make sure that our facilities are safe and that we do have egress. If there was a wall built big enough that could keep our kids safe, believe me, I would be all for it. But everything that I've read and every bit of research that I've done is that a big part of it, again, we're back to social and emotional wellness. And it is not just making sure that our kids feel safe, but it's also empowering people to share and feel that their input on kids that are going through troubles is being heard. It is making sure you're watching kids who have been bullied. It's making sure that there is an anonymous program by which you can report that you're concerned about a particular student and it doesn't blow back on that teacher. Thank you.
All right, next question. How can the school board be accountable to the public on student achievement, school performance, and progress over time? And we'll start this one with George.
Well, one way to be accountable is to rely on testing and consistent testing that shows really how our kids are performing, not just locally within our district, but in comparison to peers across state lines and basically nationally. We have a job to get our kids ready for high school and beyond, and getting them to the proper levels year by year, and consistently moving 5 elementary school sites into 1 middle school and having them all at similar academic levels is important. And what we can see right now is it's very varied across our 5 elementary schools, and that's concerning. And so we're back to sort of having that curriculum conversation about having some more rigor and having some more standard sets so that we're sharing best practices and getting the results that we're seeing in some of the top schools with some of our less performing schools.
Thank you. Sharon?
Yes. Well, I know that right now with the pandemic learning loss, we are doing frequent testing, and that has its pluses and minuses. It's letting us find the students who may have fallen off and getting to them real quickly to give them the right support to get them back on track. At the same time, I've heard students are getting over-tested. So you can get testing burnout from that. So, you know, we want to see, we have our test scores and we need to oversee that. We're going to have programs in place. We need to make sure we're getting the intervention where it's needed. And we're going to have to listen to the people that are teaching our students mostly. I think they know what's being learned, what's lost, what is easy to teach right now, and what children are really struggling with. And we need to really listen to our teachers to tell us where the students are right now. And then as a board, we can move forward together to make sure we have these programs and policies in place to assist all these students to get, you know, so we have successful students all around. Thank you.
Yunhee.
Yes, I actually reviewed our school board's 2018 strategic plan. In it, they mentioned social emotional learning. And one of the success metrics was counseling and education. They did a good job educating kids about social emotional learning and toolbox and whatnot. The second one was student achievement. And we've discussed how targeted learning is important and how differentiated learning is important. The third one is about global studies. You know, our district has flip-flopped on Spanish. As far as I know, I don't think my son is exposed to any diversity education. So we failed at that. And what I noticed from all these is there's no accountability. I'm sure they spent a lot of time making this strategic plan, but the board should review its goals periodically and kind of assess ourselves and the superintendent. Are we doing what we promised? And I understand there was pandemic, but I wish we could revisit the strategic goal we set for 2018 and 2023, and that's first step. Thank you.
Carol.
Well, I've heard a lot of great things from all of the other candidates, but I really think that if we want to do something that is going to show results, we have to not just test, but we have to interpret the results, right? So one of those is having buy-in from the teachers and making sure that we're using assessments that everybody believes has value, right? And so right now we're using iReady and we're using the CASP data, which is not up for debate, but understanding whether or not the iReady information is one that they like, or putting a committee together to get information out that the teachers are going to feel that they can rely on and that we can then use as a tool to help guide our kids moving forward. I think it's important to listen to our teachers about what is going on in the classroom. But I also think that it's important as the board to drive what we think is best for the kids. And a lot of those things are going to come up from things that were already in process, initiatives that have already been put forward. And we're going to handle those things as best we can.
Natalie.
So I agree with everybody. And I think that, definitely using the data that we're getting from testing to support where we need to focus is important. Testing is not everything. There are a lot of mixed opinions on it, but it is absolutely an indicator, and we see consistency between iReady results and CASP testing on where those gaps are and who needs the most support. In addition to that, I think that we want to continue to focus on things like growth mindset and social emotional learning, because it's actually that stuff that's going to drive qualities in our students, like persistence and self-control and all the things that are going to help them be learners who are not just memorizing data points, but know how to be critical thinkers to come to solutions. And I think we want to get into the classrooms to see what the teaching is like, not as much to watch and observe the teachers, but to see how engaged the students are and making sure that they are getting the best results out of their day-to-day experience.
Thank you. Right, next question. For years, there's been talk of combining our local schools, Mill Valley and the Sausalito Marine City. What is your stance on public school district unification? And we're going to start this with Sharon.
Yes, unification is long been talked about. I actually had at-length discussions with both Curtis Robinson, who is on the County Board of Education, and Leslie Wachtel, who former Mill Valley School Board trustee. And they both served on 2 committees over the years, looking at the unification of Mill Valley and Sausalito Marin City. There was a, trying to look through my notes, there was a professional consultant was hired by the county at the time to study it. And at the time in 2017, it was determined that the community of Sausalito and Marin City did not want the unification. But a lot has changed since then. It's been almost 5 years. We've had a pandemic and the charter was dissolved in their school district. So if this is something that the county wants to look at again, then, you know, as a board member, I would be supportive of the county looking at it. And again, it was done in, 5 years ago. So that's a lot has changed and maybe it's time to revisit. Thank you.
Yunhee?
Yes, this is something I thought about. I grew up in downtown Chicago, where my sisters, my friends' sisters used to call it my friend base UN. I value diversity. I think diversity is important. But the devil is in the details. You know, we have different tax base, Sausalito versus Mill Valley. Our reserves are vastly different. Sausalito's reserves are not that good. Ours is a AAA rated $23 million reserve fund. We also have higher paid students than Sausalito, and per student spending is very different. So I think in order to convince the voters who decide, we have to be very thoughtful about integrating the 2 districts, both strategically and financially, to convince our voters. And I believe that my extensive business experience integrating businesses would actually be helpful in providing the right information to the voters.
Thank you. Carol?
I do not have any additional information besides the one that Sharon quoted, which was that the last time this issue was looked at in depth, the school district of Sausalito and Marin City did not want to be merged into the school district of Mill Valley. And so if and when this issue comes up again and there is a renewed interest going over time that comes back up, as a board member, I would look at it and look at it with fresh eyes. But I don't know that that is something that they want. And so so I don't know that we're really at a decision point on that. Thank you.
Natalie?
I feel like we're going to have a lot of repeating here. I agree, and they have been vocal, that the community of Sausalito and Marin City has been vocal about not wanting to be part of a unified district. I think it's fine to revisit the question, but the starting point would have to be asking them, what do they want? Because unless both sides agree, then it's kind of a moot point. So then if there was openness to it, then it's determining what the what's in it for me, what the benefits would be to each side, and obviously, ensuring that it made financial sense for all stakeholders. But I think if you can't bring both sides to the table, and one side feels strongly about remaining independent, then you need to trust that they know what they want and need for their community, and not try to step in from any kind of savior or whatever perspective to try and force the issue.
Thank you. And George?
Yeah, I don't know that I can add much more than has already been said, but what I would say is, I will say during the pandemic, watching the unification of our superintendents and Marin as a whole, to listen to data, to come together, to help the schools open, to get in front of issues that affect everybody, was really, really powerful. And if you can learn anything from that, right, and try to extrapolate it and put it into where are we today, I think we can use that as a tool, right? We've got amazing teachers, we've got amazing programs in neighboring districts, and using best practices and sharing amongst these districts could be key to everybody's overall performance improvements. And so I throw that out there because I don't know that we utilize that as much or as well as we have right here in our backyard.
Thank you. Okay, next question. What do you think the board's role is in managing, leading, and being accountable to the decisions of the superintendent. And we'll start this question with Yunhee.
Yes, I don't know enough about superintendent that much, other than I met her. I liked her. I think she has the right ideas. But there's a division between the superintendent and the teacher that to me seemed obvious. I think you need to help bridge the gap by improve the communication, by mentoring, and making sure she gets the right professional coaching to manage down. I also think in terms of what I can do with this as a board member to the superintendent, I think it's also providing a good feedback, having the right assessment, year-end reviews that is informative as opposed to just persuasive. I think that's the right first step, because if I don't know what she needs to work on, and if the review doesn't tell me, I can't assess her and I can't see where she could improve and what she's doing great. So I think that is the first step that we could implement, is a good review process for our superintendent so she can grow into even a better superintendent. Thank you.
Carol.
I hate to say this, but will you repeat the question? You cut out a little bit and I want to make sure I'm addressing
Oh,
it.
not a problem. Not a problem. Make sure I'm speaking directly. So what do you think the board's role is in managing, leading, and being accountable to the decisions of the superintendent?
Thank you. Well, the board is the boss, for lack of a better term, of the superintendent. They oversee the superintendent. They're responsible for hiring and ultimately potentially firing. Though, our superintendent, who is currently there, was part of a hiring committee made up of community members who chose her. And I think it's the board's job to help implement what is going on there, but is the ultimate oversight of making sure that everything is coordinating in the right way. I think a board, to work well, needs to work in conjunction with the superintendent, who is in touch with the teachers and is, by the way, ultimately the one negotiating the union contract with the teachers, which I believe happens every year. And so being in close contact with her as she's integrating with the teachers and working on work with curriculum, making sure that she's working closely with the different outside consultants that are coming in to talk about things like diversity initiatives and math curriculum, and making sure that all the pieces are moving along, but also understanding what is going on from her perspective. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Natalie.
So I agree with Carol, and I think, and also agree with Yunhee in that it's, a lot of ways bridging the gap between stakeholders, with the superintendent and the community, around her. And, I think a lot of it is being comfortable speaking truth to power. And, it's an odd relationship between a board and the superintendent, because you're both collaborating in a lot of what you do. But to Carol's point, that she ultimately is accountable to the board, and the board makes the decisions about her remaining in place and if she's performing at level. So ensuring that actively pushing back when needed, hopefully it would be a last resort when all other options were exhausted, that you would get to a point of having to terminate a superintendent and look for a new one, because the entire community suffers and it sets you back a couple of years. But making sure there's regular communication going in both directions to help support everybody's success and accountability.
George?
Yeah, I think the overarching sort of goal has to be enhanced communication. And, ultimately, right, the buck stops with the board and they're responsible for the superintendent. But I think it's more about the collaboration too, like sitting down in the review process and sort of setting the goals for the coming year has to be in conjunction with the board, and the board having the voice of other stakeholders and people really need to be able to drive what goes into those decisions. And then everyone has to stand behind those decisions and sort of support her and her initiatives. And that goes across, everybody, whether it's the board, whether it's teachers, whether it's parents, because ultimately what we're trying to do is get to the best outcome for the kids. And with that in mind, we need to, follow what we've set forth as our path.
Okay. Sharon.
Yes, so I know that the role of the board president and vice president in our school board meets weekly with the superintendent. And I believe it is up to the rest of the board members, if they choose to see how frequently they meet with her as well. So in terms of working together, I think, to have an open dialogue as much as possible. So, and to have a professional back and forth, and to be able to, support each other in this, and to make sure that, so if there's board directives, we want to make sure that they're sound. And to be comfortable enough to have that back and forth with each other to establish that we are making good board directives. Yes, superintendent, let's act on this. I think constructive criticism can be provided. There was a big 360 review last year, and the public, all we were told was that it was favorable, and it would be nice to see a few more data points on that, because there was a lot that went into that, I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So what do you view as the educational strengths and weaknesses in your district? That is, what's going well and what needs improvement? We're going to start this with Carol.
There are so many things that are going well. I think that we have a wonderful community we have really invested parents that are out there trying to do the best they can for their kids. We have really fantastic teachers, and we're fortunate that they are some of the highest paid teachers in all of Marin, and that we are able to hopefully address making their workplace a better place, and making it a place where they feel heard and supported. Maybe that's an area where everybody, I don't know a workplace that couldn't use some improvement there. And I think that our schools are probably one of those places. We want to make sure that we provide that support as one of the ways that we are improving. I think that we want to have as much opportunity for parents to have input. I think we want to make sure that we're supporting our kids in the best possible way. And I think one of the things that's always true is that everybody probably wants that. The question is how the best way is to go about it. And so I think one of the reasons and one of the overall arching goals of the school board is to take all of the different people who have hopefully the best interests of the children in mind and help work out how to exactly make that vision come true.
Okay, thank you. Natalie.
And just to repeat, this is on what's going well in the district. Yes.
Do you want me to repeat that?
Yes, please.
Okay, sorry about that. What do you view as the educational strengths and weaknesses? That is, what's going well and what needs improvement?
Yeah, thank you. So I think that one thing that's going really well is there seems to be general agreement across the community, the teachers, the parents, all the stakeholders, with a focus on social emotional learning and diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. I love what's happening there, and that we are all unified and invested in ensuring that our kids are more than just fact people, that they are, in terms of like memorizing their multiplication tables and that's it, but they're becoming well-rounded human beings when they go to school each day and appreciate everything the teachers are doing there. I think the diversity of the individual sites, as frustrating as some of the differences can be, and want to have some greater consistency, I think the different personalities there is is definitely valued. I think that with that, we want to see some better collaboration across the teachers and across the communities, so that there's more communication and finding best practices and efficiencies across the board.
Thank you. George?
Yeah, great question. And I mean, just being on campus right now, it's so wonderful, and everyone just really genuinely seems so happy in that things are getting back to normal in terms of the day and the activities and all the things the kids are getting to do, and that's great. And I kind of think, okay, what are some of the shortfalls? And Yunhee brought it up. It's like, what the heck happened to Spanish in our classes, in our elementary school grades? We've got definitely differentiated learning that needs to be spread across more subject matters than just reading. And I would love to see us really tackle, diversity and inclusion in a much bigger and broader way than it's currently being done. We're, touching on, the doorstep of it, but I think, as we roll that out and become more inclusive to the different things, that it makes our kids just much more well-rounded and better humans.
Sharon?
So I have the benefit of seeing my two children have a complete Mill Valley School District education from K through 8. I've seen the working habits of 40-something different teachers because my children never had the same teacher. I've seen some fantastic teachers. There are amazing, amazing core teachers at the middle school, great math teachers. I know there's a current push-pull between the autonomy our teachers have and the innovation to curriculum that they've had. And I've seen this firsthand. For example, in 4th grade, I know, and I don't know if this is at every school because at the time I didn't investigate it, but in 4th grade, we always had talking calendars. And once a month, your child, and only in 4th grade, would have to go up and present a talking calendar to the entire class. They got public speaking experience, they got writing experience, and it was a collaborative process. Right now, though, some of the weaknesses, I think there's a little bit of an imbalance. Well, actually, there is an imbalance of homework. One class might have 90 minutes of English homework, one class might have 20, and we need to find a common ground for that. Thank you.
And Yunhee?
I think we have amazing teachers. I think we need to focus on retraining and attracting even our teachers that we have and getting even better teachers. And I think we need to improve the morale of the teachers. And it's not by paying them more. To me also, it's making them feel valued and, have them be part of making important decisions. I think this new math test, listening to learn and math curriculum is actually a good first step, but teachers need to be more involved and communicated. Another thing I don't think we're doing well actually is serving our high needs students who are English learners, students with disabilities, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. And we need to really develop, have more resources and identify the students sooner and try to provide a lot of help. And also, I think we could do a lot better job with targeted learning, expand it beyond one subject per year to reading and language arts, and also diversify a curriculum. We don't have good science curriculum. I love mystery science, but I wish we had a little bit more comprehensive science curriculum as a mom. And I also like diversity education and global education, which, we lost at TOSA, the teachers and special assignment. And personally, I would like to see that person brought back or that kind of function brought back. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, there's never enough time for all the questions that we'd like to cover. So that does conclude the question portion of the forum. Thank you so much to all of our participants, and we'll hear from them again before we close. But before the candidates make their closing statements, I want to share some key information about this year's election. So new this year, as you might already know, is that Marin County has implemented the Voters' Choice Act, offering more days and more ways to vote. So now all active registered voters are automatically mailed a ballot about a month before election. Ballots can be returned by U.S. mail, at an official secure ballot drop box, or at a vote center. For in-person voting, the vote centers replace your assigned neighborhood polling places. Voters may vote in person at any vote center in Marin. A complete list of locations is included in your voter information guide. All vote centers will be open at least 4 days before Election Day. If you have questions, please reach out to the Marin County's Elections Department in person, online, or by phone. They're very receptive. We've got a great elections department. Slide 1, please. So here are some important dates. Ballots will be mailed on October 10th. Official ballot drop boxes will be available the next day. October 24th is the last day to register online to vote. Some vote centers open on October 29th, the rest open on November 5th. November 8th is Election Day. All voter centers are open until 8 p.m. Mail ballots may be postmarked no later than this date. Ballots returned using a ballot drop box must also be deposited on that date by 8 p.m. Please remember to sign your ballot if you return it by mail or in a drop box. Your signature is your verification, so that's very important. Slide 2, please. There are many online resources for election information, including the League's website at marinlwv.org. I do want to highlight one of these. Voter's Edge is an online tool that provides unbiased, in-depth information about what's on your ballot in both English and in Spanish. It's a project of the League of Women Voters. All candidates are invited to enter their information. Voters can get a personalized list of candidates, including their biographies and top priorities and information about local ballot measures and more. So please, I urge you to visit votersedge.org. And I do want to thank all these candidates who have posted their information so you can learn more about them at votersedge.org. You will see this slide again at the end of the forum, so you can take a photo or make notes if you'd like to. Thank you. And now the candidates will make closing statements of 1 minute each. We'll go in reverse order of the opening statements, starting with Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, and thank you to the various Mill Valley PTA and PTSAs for putting this candidates forum on for us. And thank you all for whoever is tuning in, participating, and asking the questions. I want to reiterate, I'm an engaged parent, have been for a very long time. I feel I'm ready to deal with all district business. I'm an architect. Standard practice for a building of this size is to form a building committee internally. That is very important, and especially when we're talking about $194 million overall. I am endorsed by the Democratic Central Committee of Marin, the Mill Valley Teachers Association, the Marin Women's Political Action Committee, 4 previous mayors, 2 current city council members, 4 different school board trustees, including Mill Valley, Leslie Wachtel and Robin Moses, in addition to 3 ex-principals. And I want to end with this quote by Leo Kostelnik, former Edna McGuire principal. "I've always found Sharon to be an honest broker, an advocate for all children, not simply her own, and someone who thinks independently and critically, asks incisive questions, and listens to understand other points of view. Also, Sharon's professional expertise will be a boon to the district through the rebuilding process." Thank you.
Thank you. George Rosenfield.
Yeah, I would like to echo that and thank everyone for tuning in and listening to and submitting, great and thoughtful questions. People have a decision to make, and we've talked about it this evening about it being really a very open slate with 3 open seats, and the chance to really rebuild and restart at a pivotal point in our school district. And I think I bring to the table a very balanced approach, a very thoughtful approach, and one that is so collaborative and willing to work with all the stakeholders. And I think that's what's really needed. What this district needs right now is to unify and to build a sense of community and pride around our schools and the people that are in them, and provide an environment for our kids to thrive. And that's what I'm here to do. And if I can earn your vote, that's what I will do for you. Thanks.
Thank you. Natalie Katz.
Thank you. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters and the PTA Council. And I think in terms of endorsements and support, you can probably refer to all of our respective individual websites to be able to view that. I think at the end of the day, I just want to remind everybody that regardless of where you lean and who you listen to, hopefully everybody is doing their homework and focusing on being an informed voter and looking into everybody's background, platform, and ensure that that's in line with your personal priorities and what you want for the district and for the children of our community, so we can do what's best. With my HR background as a very active volunteer and parent in the community, I have skin in the game here, and hopefully, as we, I think that we all do, and I value that all 5 of us wants what's best for our kids. promise to lead with empathy, always listen, and I think most importantly, move away from the divisiveness so we can set the right example for our kids and not just have that as lip service for them and show them something different on the ground.
Carol Morganstern.
I also want to thank the League of Women Voters and all of our PTA organizations who came together and everybody who took the minute to listen to all of us and really are taking this very seriously, because I think all of us who are running are taking this very seriously. The opportunity to help our children and to continue to make our schools the best possible place they can be is right in front of us. And we want to think about not just the answers that we've had here today, a lot of them have been fantastic, but also the realization that something could come up that we haven't thought about at all. If you think about the people who were running for this position 4 years ago, they had no idea that COVID was going to come up and that they were going to experience something that they could all probably join a support group for. We are potentially going to face something that we don't know. And so don't just think about what somebody's stance is on one narrow question. Think about the people you want in the room when something you haven't thought of has come up. And I think that my background, hopefully negotiating, keeping things clean and easy, and that, you know, those of us getting along with other people, that is an incredibly important process.
Thank you. And Yunhee Yoo.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to present ourselves. I think we're very lucky that we have 5 passionate parents who are willing to donate time and effort into this election, which is a lot more than I bargained for. But I want to tell you why I'm running. I'm the only first-generation American here. I arrived as English as a second language learner, and I went to Chicago Public School in my 5th grade from Korea. And here's the thing. The teacher saw something in me there at Ogden Elementary, public elementary school. And they put me through International Baccalaureate program and High School International Baccalaureate program. You know, standardized testing wouldn't have worked for me because my English was behind. And I got the best possible education. And this is my way of paying back to our district, our public school education. I want to kind of contribute my years of experience. And I've already done that in person as a volunteer, and this is why I'm running. And I feel passionate about public education. I hope you noticed that too. Thank you.
Thank you to our host partners, to the candidates for participating, and to the League Forum team. And special thanks to the team at Community Media Center of Marin. We could not have done this without you. A video of tonight's forum will be posted on the League's website in the next few days. Thank you again for joining us this evening, and most important, thank you for voting. And now a few final comments from our host partner, Heather Matthews, President of Mill Valley Council of PTAs.
Thank you so much, Becky. We wanted to thank you, Becky Bing, for being the moderator for this forum, and we want to especially thank the League of Women Voters of Marin County for your time, guidance, and partnership this evening. We also want to thank the members of our community who submitted such excellent questions for our candidates tonight. And we want to thank the candidates, especially for letting the community get to know you. It's been such an informative evening. Please remember, as Becky said earlier, to vote on November 8th. And I am Heather Matthews, the PTA Council President for the Mill Valley School District. And we hope you have a nice evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.